Worldwide movement, Big King Sadiq, hollering at you one more again. All right, man. Folks, I'm telling you, this is a beautiful day. I'm nearly blinded by the brightness. Look at the sun, folks, just beaming for you, huh? This beautiful day. And notice no chemtrails in the sky. No chemtrails. Man, we must be making a difference. Worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. Man, so thank you all, folks, for helping me to build the worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. Please continue to like, share, subscribe. Please check out my Twitter feed. If you're on the channel, when you visit my channel, please on my YouTube channel, check out the community section. I have a true treasure chest worth of knowledge, information from a multitude of sources, right? I'm able to clip and post videos from other people, other sources onto that section of the channel. And I just have a great deal of truly interesting and informative content, both for myself and others, right? So please check out the community section, as well as for my music, check out my SoundCloud, right? And of course you can find the album, right? Big King Sadiq PLR New Paradigm on virtually all streaming services. And yeah, man, continuing to build the worldwide movement. Peace, love, respect. Thanks to all of you. I thank you and I love you all truly. Now, folks, things have been progressing, as I'm sure you all know. My folks, or virtually all my high vibers who I keep in contact with, make sure that we keep and stay in touch with one another. Virtually all my express the same sentiment to me, you know. Man, they're going crazy out there. They just, you never know what folks are liable to do. Their behavior's getting so erratic. And unfortunately, it seems to be all the people around me, my family, my friends, everybody in my circle. Why is everybody tripping? And folks, you know, we've already discussed that individuals who are struggling with low vibrational frequency energy are going to struggle, right, in various ways in this transitional, transformative period, right? Gaia is in transition. This is no longer the old earth or the old paradigm, folks. Those of you who've been holding your breath, waiting for things to go back to normal, that's never going to happen. It's just not. Normal that you knew back then, that world is gone. This is a new earth. This is Gaia's new expression, right? And in this new expression, along with a myriad of other things that are energetically and spiritually, you might as well say, impacting our ascension path, right? And truly changing the vibrational frequency of this planet, as well as the paradigm that human beings have been living in on the planet, right? Now, one of the things I find funny is that the powers that be, right, the authorities, and folks who would like to criticize individuals who utilize astrology, and other esoteric disciplines, right? They're often balked at, right? Laughed at, and there are a great many folks who would love to point the finger and say, "Oh, look at them, they're flighty, you know, they're fanciful, they're into fantasy, they got their head in the sky," you know, all the little sayings, right? When in reality, you're the one who chose the pill that's got you believing in a fantasy. That's the irony of it. Those who would point a finger and say, "Oh, that's fantasy, you're not living in the real world." Sadly, those individuals have no idea what the real world is actually all about. But that's what we're changing, folks. And that's why the planet is changing. And all those beautiful people who may be struggling with low energy right now will not forever. I told you, everything changes, man. It may be difficult for them for a while, but eventually they will progress in their own spiritual maturity as well. All will, right? And this is what's happening on the planet. This is why we are collectively evolving, right? To become a planet of human beings that are truly of a high vibrational frequency nature, who live and exemplify high consciousness on the planet, right? And those who would like to thwart that and keep the planet in the old paradigm and the way things used to be, where the socio-economic elite enjoyed uninterrupted control, right? Most of which not even really known by the average individual, right? And we flipped that. I told you what we've done in the information age and how we have successfully made subject matter that was previously unheard of and kept in strictest confidence and secrecy by the socio-economic elite and the quote-unquote secret societies that they've organized on the planet. Now, again, why such a big fuss over controlling information? Why such a stringent worldwide effort spanning over a time period of thousands of years? Why have we seen such an incredible effort by these quote-unquote secret societies, by the socio-economic elite and all the organizations associated with them, right? Because they've had to control the evolution mentally, spiritually, and physically of all of the people on the planet who are not a part of their cabal, right? The masses of the people who they have such dark and gloomy visions for, right? Where they love to create this dystopia where they have complete control. The population is down to 500 million, like they posted so boldly on the Georgia Guidestones before they were blown up. That's their vision, man. And that vision has already been thwarted because the average person, see, the way people don't really grasp, or at least those who may not be at a point to really understand how things are working on the planet and the transition of paradigms currently underway. May not understand that the most important and the most powerful tool that has kept the socio-economic elite in power for so long on this planet is control of the flow of information. Huh? Did you hear what I said? They've always sought to control the flow of information. Why else would you develop secret societies and sequester so much knowledge from the masses? Why, when, Alexander the Great, right, and so many other nefarious individuals throughout history, Napoleon notwithstanding, etc., why did they make such grievous and terrific efforts to hide archaeological findings, to hide entire libraries of knowledge and information, to hide all these different sources of information from the masses, right? Why was that so important? I mean, you think about it, one of the main things that these conquerors do, right? These conquerors, when they defeat when they defeat or conquer a certain area or peoples or land, right? They go right to those things. They go to the libraries, they go to the archaeological findings, they go to all of the things that actually will preserve the culture, the heritage, the knowledge which is passed down in so many different ways, and the connection of so many indigenous people and so many people who differ from their agenda around the planet. Why so important that they control that? Because, folks, they have to and have had to control the flow of information. Who knows what, right? They've been determined to control who knows what. And that's the only way that they can keep the masses in ignorance and so easily manipulated, right? With various forms of deception. Indoctrination, manipulation. I mean, the list goes on and on as to the devices that they would use, all the isms, right? All the nefarious devices that the socio-economic elite have utilized through their secret societies and other organizations that they control to keep the flow of information indeed under their control, directed and determined by them. However, folks, we have successfully flipped that. Not just flipped it, we have completely turned that around, right? Not only don't they control the flow of information, but now the average individual walking down the street, standing at a bus stop, at work at the water cooler, whatever. The conversations between average individuals tell the story. And I haven't been all over the world to check this, but I've been through quite a few stops in this country and have kept tabs with dear ones and friends all over this nation and certainly all over the world as well. and they echo the same sentiment. People are just generally talking about things that 20, 30 years ago they didn't even think about. Remember, folks, you don't know what you don't know. Huh? Some questions you don't even know to ask, right? But now, again, in the information age, we have blown the doors off of all of the great halls that have captured, contained, sequestered, kept hidden the world's heritage. Well, that's truly what it is. The world's heritage, history, knowledge, wisdom, and information, and so many deep archaeological findings, so much information in so many different forms, and contributions to the picture that makes up the collage of the world's history, right? Even though I'm not big on that word. Folks, we really have got to realize where we're at. It would not be improper for you to all stand up and give yourselves a round of applause right now. Do that. I will. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I won't put the phone down, but I'm clapping the back of my head. Folks, I know it feels like and it looks like when you turn on the news, when you talk to each other about quote unquote current events, it seems like doom and gloom. It seems like things are in a ruckus or in a terrible state. There's even some people walking around on the planet feeling like, oh, it's all about to be over soon. We'll be having a nuclear war and that'll be it. We'll destroy ourselves. Folks, the danger of that happening on this planet passed back in the late 80s. What do you mean, Big King Sadiq? I'm telling you, there will not be a nuclear war of any great magnitude or any unleashing of nuclear weapons on this planet. It will not happen. I'm not going to go incredibly deep into it, but let's just say that those folks who understand some of the other disciplines that may not as, worldwide movement, who may not be quite as, or that may not be quite as commonly known, like ufology. Not that that's where I'm gleaning that information from. Anything that you would consider esoteric. There are, let's just say, very soon, devices, and that doesn't quite cover it, technologies, right, that would fit into an all new category, right? The category of defensive technologies. Now, typically when we think about defenses, especially a country's defenses, you start thinking about weapons, right? Because that's what they claim to be using in defense, when if you study their behavior in reality, that's not really being defensive at all. They're often being offensive, and their efforts often result in the loss of innocent life. But anyway, there are technologies on the way that will ensure such a thing not happen. Already being tinkered with. The ideas are already flooding into the minds of those who will bring it to fruition, right? But such a war is not going to happen. That's my word. Take it for what it's worth. research what I might be talking about, on your own, and holler at me if you like. Folks, if you ever have any feedback, and please give it to me. I'm far from infallible and always need to continue to grow and mature myself, right? So please give me any feedback at any time. If you check on my YouTube channel, at the very section, the About section, you will find my email address, and I will certainly monitor that. I do monitor that, and I'll be certain to get back to you and to give careful consideration to any feedback, right? Okay. But yeah, man, the doom and gloom that some people are feeling in response to the direction that the world seems to be headed in. And listen, what's deep is, unfortunately, a lot of the people who are starting to have thoughts of doom and gloom are folks who are on the ascension path, which I'm smiling, but I'm not making light of it. It's just a bit ironic because the very folks who are on the path to awakening are unfortunately dealing with that particular form of struggle. Now, this answer may be strange to some, but that's all par for the course. What do you mean, Big King? What I mean is, the further you progress on your ascension path, right, the further you will begin to question everything. And folks who are on their ascension path know what I'm talking about. Chime in if you got feedback, or give me a like on that, because I know y'all feeling it, because anyone who I've spoken with or had contact with in some form in the past 5 years who is going through some form of a spiritual awakening or ascension process, they certainly can concur and know just what I'm talking about, right? Just what I'm referring to. And it's just a natural part of it, that your inquisition and that your questioning of the status quo that has been your life is going to intensify. Why? Because you just started to open your eyes enough to see how many lies are swirling around you and have been for so long. And folks, to some people, that's a nightmare in itself. They don't want that realization. But if you're at all like me, then you got to have it, right? I'm just not the type of person who's comfortable not knowing. To some, ignorance is bliss, and I give you no judgment. There are people who are going to essentially sleepwalk all through this entire process and then die. But that's all right. That's all right. That's just where they're at in their maturity. No one deserves judgment. No one should be looked down upon, or frowned upon in any way. That's just where they're at. Just like how I tell you about the behavior of folks who struggle with low vibrational frequencies. They're going to do that, folks, especially when you come around if you high vibing, because they struggle to deal with that. They're going to do that, folks, especially when you around if you're high vibing. All right? But again, all speaks to the changes that occur with us individually and that are occurring collectively, the changes that are happening from us going through this process, the changes that were ultimately inevitable if you paid attention to astrology and knew that at some point we were going to get into this particular house that they call the Aquarian house. Where humanity would most certainly change, consciousness, right? If you just pay attention to astronomy at a high level, you likely would have seen something dramatic that could potentially happen on the planet and with human beings, just because of what I mentioned earlier. Our planet, and in fact, our solar system, and where it is right now in its orbit around the center of the galaxy. This particular sector or section of the galaxy that we're in has some truly profound, incredible, and transformative energies that we simply have not been exposed to, right? Period. And they are, however, let me change that. For all of the on, they are impactful, but human in particular, these energies are transformative in terms of transforming our consciousness to a higher vibrational frequency state. Folks, this is the time for the explosion of high consciousness on the planet, right? It is time for us to truly begin to realize, to truly begin to bring to fruition, to manifest our true and greatest potential, right? Talking about big. Go back to the science world. I've been saying it time after time. We don't have to go any further than the fact that scientists have, at least off while I was going through school, I don't know what everyone else was learning, or that we were siphoned out, right? The little tidbits of information that we got. They did at least slip up and let that much go. At least they mentioned it enough that it stayed in my brain, right? The fact that human beings only utilize a relatively small percentage of our DA's potential efficacy, right? The full expression of our DNA, you might say. Typically right around 30%. And I've talked about why is that, I've questioned in other videos, like, why is that something that's acceptable to us, right? When in any other area of our lives, if something operated at 30%, we would be completely outraged. And if it was a product, we go and demand our money back, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Somehow, even those of us who receive that information, because a lot of people don't even know that, right? That our DNA is not fully expressing itself. And the fact that just under the process of really understanding that and calculating for yourself individually what that means, right? So personally, how much of yourself, even if you say, well, all right, big king, society, mankind, everybody as a whole, whatever, I got my own life to live. Okay, well, you, specifically, whoever you may be, what would it look like if you manifested 100% and expressed 100% of your DNA? Think about that. What do you maybe want to change about yourself? What do you feel perhaps a longing to make better about yourself? How do you know that particular thing might not be completely just natural if your DNA was expressing itself completely? In other words, what I'm saying is, you may look at people who can speed read in a slight slight tone of envy or at least wish to yourself or think to yourself, man, I'd like to be able to do that. How you know you can't? Likely we all could if we were expressing our DNA at 100%. The list of things that we likely could do, right? If we were expressing 100% of our DNA's efficacy and potential, the list would be astonishing, folks. Astonishing. But I tell you one thing for sure. Once you have awakened, once you get on the path, once you start to really open up your eyes and ears and understand the paradigm on the planet, you see how the socio-economic elites have manipulated things. Once you start to learn more about yourself, most importantly, and you begin to evolve, folks, you can't be lied to and controlled that same way you were before. Remember, and just think about this for yourself. We have been indoctrinated our entire lives. And when I say we, I mean every man, woman, and child on this planet. Indoctrinated by the socio-economic elite who've been running the planet for so long and have fallen victim to their various forms of social engineering and the layers of indoctrination that come with that social engineering and its multiple layers. Those layers that tell you all of the things that you're not. Those layers that tell you all the things that you can't do, that you can't have, that are an impossibility to you, that are not something that you can attain in this lifetime. On and on and on. All those things, those layers, have been applied to us layer after layer after layer from the time we were born. And often before. Folks, our parents often indoctrinate us unknowingly because they're just passing on the same thing that they were taught. Generation after generation after generation. Why would you guess? Why would you question it? Right? If this is what your grandfather understood and your grandmother understood to be true, you'll accept it as true. Your mother accepted it to be true. Your father accepted it to be true. You accept it as true, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't blame you for that. That actually used to be one of the best means in which we kept our heritage and culture alive, no matter who you were on the planet, right? Which is to some degree why it makes it such a natural process or such a conveniently natural thing for us to do that and to share amongst one another and pass things on and pass them on and pass them on. Because if they, when I say they, if they understand that, then their next step is, okay, we just need to control what's being passed on. And they do that from all the other areas of life in which you're indoctrinated. Through medicine, through education, yes, through religion, right? Just about every major aspect of your life is designed to give you certain check-in points, right? Certain points of indoctrination where they sort of gauge where you at in their lane of control, right? Where your mind is in their lane of control. And so, folks, what I'm saying is, they know. They know, and have always known that at some point, because they've always paid attention to astrology. Every president that this country has ever seen has had their own, as far as record shows, has had their own astrological advisor and different forms of esoteric advisory. Maybe not all the same thing for each president, but something, right? The folks who make up these groups of socio-economic elite in the secret societies in which they control and use to carry out their dirty work, so to speak, those folks are all and have always been tuned in to astronomy and esoteric things. This, they too survived on this planet through parts where we did come close to really ourselves off of this planet, right? Like the late 80s, the nuclear crisis was very real. I lived through it, and everybody else around my age or older who did knows how close and how real those times really were, right? We're not moving backwards. You know, the social economic elite, the secret societies, right, and all those low vibers know and have known, they know that if we made it to this part of the galaxy, that if we made it into this astrological house, that humanity would evolve in consciousness. I'm not talking about physical evolution. We're not, all about to grow wings, a third ear, and a tail. It's not what I'm saying. We would evolve in consciousness. And such an evolution in consciousness would make their system of rule, which depended upon, remember what again? The flow of information, right? They knew that if we evolved this far in consciousness, their ability to control the flow of information would be virtually impossible. And thus their ability to continue to control the masses would indeed be impossible. And here's where we're at right now. Folks, what we are experiencing on the planet in the form of drama, right? In the form of all these different socially engineered health disasters, I'll say, right? And a lot of other things that are happening on the planet in terms of drastic measures, like all the control measures, right? Lockdown policies, etc., right? All of that points to how desperate they have become sitting on that knowledge. I mean, think about it from their perspective, folks. It's a virtual powder keg that they've been sitting on, knowing that if we get to a certain point in time, that's it. That's it. Their time running the is over. So if you've been in control on for thousands of years, and now at that control, how do you deal with that? Right? Now remember, they've seen this coming, so don't think they haven't taken any steps. They've been taking steps for years, trying to avert and change the timelines, right? Folks, the steps that they've taken have been drastic indeed. And they've all failed. And we're always going to fail. Because if we made it to this point in the galaxy, right, in our solar system's orbit around the galaxy, if we made it to this point without destroying ourselves, we were going to evolve to a higher consciousness, and we are right now. And that evolution frightens the socio-economic elite, the powers that be, frightens them more than anything, because they are, with every moment that passes now in this new energy, they are further and further losing the control and the power that they've enjoyed for thousands of years. So do you think that might be enough to make such individuals panic? Do you think that might be enough to make such individuals and groups and organizations take unthinkably drastic steps to try and disrupt all this? Certainly. You think they just want to lose that control? Do you think that the socio-economic elite want there to be social and economic equality on the planet? No, not in a million years. Because that is what has given them the power that they've enjoyed. You go and ask the average trillionaire or multi-billionaire if they're ready to have, it's almost funny just to think of it. They're ready to share the riches, the resources, and the wealth of the world with the masses. Just ask them, just plainly. Hey, Mr. Gates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I've gotten to like to sort of throw his name around a little bit on these videos, because he's a perfect example of one of these socio-economic elite individuals with great money, resources, and power, who takes drastic steps that truly echo the sentiment I've been talking about this whole time. You're talking about a cat who funded a collegiate effort. Actually, he commissioned, not just funded, but commissioned a college, and I'm not going to specify in any way, a university rather, tasked their scientific department or some department within the university with coming up with a viable way to block out the rays of the sun. You couldn't make this up, folks. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. Look into it on your own. Look into some of the other things that said individual has done and is doing. Look at the massive amounts of land that he's buying up in nefarious fashion, right? If you look into the circumstances around it all, you'll see what I mean. Folks, the countries around the world have already begun to do away with paper money, if you didn't know that. They don't talk about it on the news all that much, but yeah, paper money is going by the wayside. Which doesn't really mean a whole lot to me, not because I don't have a lot of it. I don't particularly want to amass wealth in any form for any other reason than the reason why I'm still alive on this planet, which is the furthering of the worldwide movement, peace, love, respect. Now, folks, we got to get out of that mentality that there's something wrong with enjoying life or enjoying wealth. There's not. I went through that a lot myself, literally almost fearing success, because I didn't, on a subconscious level, because I didn't want to be associated with the ugliness that I saw in other people's lust for money, right? But I've sort of for years now gotten out of that and have evolved to understand that money is just a modality of energy transference. That's it. I mean, paper money, any kind of money, literally means nothing except for the transference of energy in agreement between the individuals exchanging said currency. That's it. And now they're going to make it all digital, right? Which leads way to what? Which makes easy what? Now just take a moment, think. If there's no paper money, who tells you how much money you have? You can't pick it up and count it? Huh? Think about that. Think about that. Do you really trust all of your wealth digitized on some mainframe, right? On some server that someone else controls? Think about that, folks. I told you, look into UN Agenda 21 and UN Agenda 2030. They don't want you to own anything. Folks, the information, the knowledge is out there. You don't have to get it from me, but get it. It's out there. Do your own free thinking research and see what I mean when I say they know. They know that their time is up and they panicking. They're quite literally frightened, right? And their behavior, their desperation echoes that. If you perceive it properly. Some people see these things and just get caught up, understandably so, in the nefarious nature of them, the dark implications that all this Gestapo-like government control and things of that nature, all the censorship, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All these control measures, that all of this, really points to a dystopia that they want to convince you that you have to live in. Why do they want to convince you? If they could just make it happen, why do they want to convince you? Ask yourself that question. Why do they put forth so much money and effort to control your mind and the way you think? Because we've already scientifically deduced that human consciousness impacts the quantum field. What is the quantum field again? Come on, folks. Y'all been riding with me for a minute. The quantum field is the energetic field that connects, intertwines, and is a part of all things in creation, period. And our consciousness impacts, influences, and directs that. Nah, Big King, you tripping. We don't got no kind of control. Okay. All right. Do the research, folks. Wake up. Stop just believing what people tell you when you have the ability to look and check it out for yourself. Don't believe what I'm telling you. I've always said that. Check on things yourself. Then you know whether I'm full of crap or not. Instead of just guessing and assuming that. Check it out and know. A lot of people still think that teleportation is impossible, not realizing that scientists have achieved that years ago. They've even teleported something from the Earth up to the Chinese space station. Most people don't know that, but I don't expect most people to. Most people are caught up in the rat race. Purposefully, that is the plan of the socio-economic elite, to keep you distracted so that you don't think about these things, so that you don't get inquisitive and just start looking into things at random. Because they know you'll stumble onto things that they don't want you to know. But they know. They know that you're waking up and they're frightened. They're panicked. They're even infighting. Did you know that? Did you know that these 12 families, that these socio-economic elites and all that, did you know that they're infighting right now? Do you think that what you see in the political parties is just what you see, is just there in that arena only? Because that arena, you realize, is just a drama. It might as well literally be a soap opera. It's just all a big show. But it is showing on some level what is happening amongst those who are panicking. Those who want to keep the old paradigm alive, right? Those trillionaires and billionaires who want to keep things like the quote unquote fossil fuel industry alive, that want to, continue to orchestrate, fund, and then weaponize the wars of the world, right? Do the research, folks. When there's a war over in the Middle East, where did those weapons really come from? In many places around the world, if you were to crack open some of those crates of weaponry, where were they produced? Could it be right in your backyard? I'm telling you, folks, it's deep. It's very deep. This world is changing in drastic and beautiful ways. It's evolving. We are evolving. Higher consciousness shall be the way of the planet. But there's a transition involved, and part of that transition is the socio-economic elite attempting to hold on to their desperate grasp for power, to hold on to the old paradigm, right? Even though it shall not be worldwide movement, peace, love, respect. Because of that. Because we are communicating with each other, we're sharing what we need to share with each other to be sovereign, to really realize our potential to be our best selves. And along with that, take back control of our planet from the socio-economic elite and those who ride with them. They know that you're waking up. They're panicking. That's what all the drama's about, folks. Don't take it as foreshadowing of the dystopia that you'll be in. You won't be in that unless you put your energy into it. Your thoughts. Most importantly, your fear. Remember, this is a fear society that they've orchestrated. Why? Because fear is just about the lowest vibrational frequency that you can resonate at. And when you're resonating that low, they can control and manipulate you and indoctrinate you easily in whatever way, shape, or fashion they choose. Because you're too afraid to even think, to do free thinking. You're too afraid for that. You just want safety. And whoever will provide it. And most of us look to our governments, right? Our powers that be, right? Even corporate leadership. We look to them, those sources, when in reality we should be looking within ourselves and finding our connection to the creative source, to the creator, God to some. Whatever you want to call your higher power, I place no judgment there. I just suggest and recommend that you strengthen that connection, right? However you do your thing, strengthen that connection and be at one with the creative source in you and everywhere that is.